The night was heavy in the alien jungle. Strange sounds echoed between the trees. Glowing plants gave off a soft blue light. Shadows stretched like claws across the ground. A small alien child ran barefoot through the tall grass, his eyes shining with tears, his voice breaking as he cried out, "Human! Help, my mother is hurt!" The forest did not answer. Only the deep growl of hidden creatures, the rustle of wings, the snapping of branches under unseen feet. The human soldier, far from his camp, turned his head quickly. He heard the desperate voice. It was not like the cries of wild animals. It was full of fear and pleading. He gripped his rifle, scanning the darkness. His heart beat faster. He had been warned about this jungle. They called it savage, dangerous, unforgiving. But he had never heard a cry like this before. Human. "Please." The child's voice rose again. Closer this time, the sound of stumbling feet. From behind a thick tree, the small alien child appeared, his skin pale and glowing faintly under the moonlight, his small arms waving, his eyes wide with terror. "Help me, human. My mother fell into a trap," the child cried, his voice trembling. The human moved fast, kneeling down, grabbing the child's shoulders. "Where is she?" "Show me." The child nodded quickly, leading him through twisted roots and thorny vines. The ground was wet, smelling of iron and sap. Every step seemed louder than it should be. Finally, they came into a clearing, and there she was, the alien mother, a tall and graceful figure now broken and bleeding. Her foot was pierced by sharp metal spikes, a savage trap buried under leaves and dirt. Her body shook with pain, her hands clutching at the cruel teeth of the trap. The human gasped. He had seen many wounds, but this was no ordinary accident. The spikes were forged metal, not nature, not random. Someone had built this to hurt. The child fell beside her, holding her arm. "Mother, I found him. I found the human," he said through sobs. Her breathing was shallow, her voice a whisper. "My son, you must not trust." "They are near," the human leaned close. Who is near?" Her eyes flickered with fear. She opened her mouth, but only blood came. She coughed weakly, then fell silent. The human pressed his hand against her wound, his mind racing. This was no animal trap, this was a message, he thought. The jungle seemed to listen, the air thicker now. The glowing plants dimmed as if afraid. The cries of birds stopped, leaving only silence. The human felt the hair rise on the back of his neck. Something was watching them, something unseen. He looked around, trees loomed like giants, branches curved like claws above him. The child looked up at him, his small face pale. "Please save her, you are strong. You are human." The human swallowed. He had no choice. He had to save her, but his instincts told him this was only the beginning. He pulled his knife, cutting at the trap. Each movement careful. The metal resisted. It was sharp and cruel, built not just to hold but to tear every second. He felt the forest closing in, eyes on him, shadows moving just beyond the edge of the clearing. The alien mother stirred, her voice weak. "It was not an accident. They want blood," she whispered. The human froze, the words chilled his bones. "Who wants blood?" he asked, but she did not answer. Her head fell back. The child clung to him, trembling. "Don't let her die, human." The human set his jaw. "I won't," he said firmly, though fear pressed on his chest. He worked faster, cutting at the spikes, sweat running down his face, his ears straining at every sound. And then from deep within the jungle came a low growl, long and hungry. Echoing between the trees, the human raised his head, eyes narrowing, rifle ready. The jungle had gone silent again. Too silent. Something was coming. Something that wanted them trapped just as much as the mother was. And in that moment, the human knew. This night was not about survival alone. It was the beginning of something darker. Something that would test his strength and his soul. The jungle was still, too still. Every leaf seemed to hold its breath. Every glowing plant bent away from the clearing as if afraid to witness what was about to come. The human crouched low beside the alien mother, his knife stained with her blood, his fingers slick as he tried to loosen the cruel trap. The spikes groaned but refused to break. Behind him, the small alien child clung to his arm, whispering, "Hurry, human, hurry. They will come." The human's jaw tightened. He had no idea who they were, but he could feel them, the unseen eyes in the forest, the shifting shadows between the trees. He pressed his ear closer to the mother. Her chest rose weakly. Her voice cracked like dry wood. "Not animal, not accident. It is their mark." The human looked again at the trap, forged metal, Cruel teeth designed not to kill instantly but to bleed slowly. He realized this was a hunting tool. But hunting for what? The child pulled his sleeve. "Save her, please. You are human. You are strong." The human swallowed hard. His training told him to pull back, to call for backup, to retreat before an ambush closed around him. But his heart would not let him leave them. He jammed his knife deeper into the hinge of the trap. Metal shrieked. The sound echoed through the trees like a scream. Instantly a rustle answered, movement in the darkness. Branches snapping under heavy weight. The human froze, rifle in his free hand, eyes scanning the shadows. The jungle seemed to stretch, each tree leaning closer, each vine writhing like a snake. "Stay behind me," he whispered to the child. His voice calm, though his heart thundered. From the corner of his eye, he saw the alien mother lift her hand weakly, pointing to the trees. "Symbols," she whispered, her breath thin as smoke. The human followed her finger, and there, carved deep into the bark of a twisted trunk, were strange markings glowing faintly red. He moved closer, squinting, the symbols curved like claws and spirals. The language was not human. Not the mother's kind either, something darker, older. The child's voice trembled. "That is their sign." "The hunters," the human reached out. His fingers tracing the grooves, the tree burned cold under his skin, as if it had been marked with hatred itself. He stepped back quickly. Rifle raised. "Hunters, what kind of hunters?" he asked, but the child only shook his head, eyes wide with fear. The mother coughed, her voice barely a breath. "They hunt everything. Human, they hunt for blood, for pain." The words struck him like ice. This was no simple predator. This was intelligent cruelty. Suddenly the forest answered, a low hiss from the darkness, followed by another and another. Shapes moved between the trees. Tall and silent, the glint of metal, the shimmer of armor. The human tightened his grip on his rifle, his muscles ready. "Show yourselves," he shouted into the shadows. His voice bold, though his throat was dry. Silence followed. Only the jungle wind answered, rustling leaves, carrying a smell of iron and ash, then a sound like a growl, but not animal, mechanical, broken. The child whimpered, hiding his face against the human's arm. "It is them." "They are close." The human scanned the tree line. Sweat dripping down his temple, his mind racing. If he fired blindly, he would give away their position. If he waited, they might strike first. He turned back to the mother, her skin pale, her eyes fluttering shut. "Stay awake," he ordered firmly. Though she barely heard him, he knew he had only minutes, either to free her or to fight. Maybe both. Suddenly, from the shadows, a single red eye flickered, glowing like a coal, watching unblinking. The human's chest tightened. One enemy, no, two, three. More eyes opening in the darkness surrounding them. The jungle was alive with watchers now. "Silent, patient, ready," the human whispered. "So this is the game. You set the trap and now you wait for us to bleed." The child clutched him tighter. "Do not let them take her, please." The human steadied his breath, lowering his rifle just enough to whisper into the child's ear. "Listen, if anything happens, you run, you do not stop. Do you hear me?" The child shook his head, tears shining. "No, I will not leave my mother." The human's heart twisted. He admired the courage, but he knew the danger. He turned his eyes back to the glowing symbols, the cruel trap, the red eyes in the trees. And in that moment he understood. This was no accident, no random cruelty. This was a warning, a challenge. The hunters wanted him to know they were here. They wanted him to feel the fear before the fight. The jungle grew darker. The glowing plants dimmed, the silence heavy. The human raised his rifle, feet planted firm, his voice steady as he spoke into the night. "If you want them, you will face me first." From the trees came a deep laugh, harsh and cold, echoing like metal scraping bone. The first contact had been made, and the tension was now a blade between them all. The night air grew heavier, the silence pressing like a weight on the human's chest. The jungle seemed to lean closer, each tree bending, each vine creeping, as if the whole forest wanted to trap them. The red eyes glowed brighter between the trees, more of them, 5, 10, maybe more, each one watching without a sound. The human shifted his stance, rifle tight against his shoulder, his finger resting just above the trigger, every nerve alive. The alien child trembled beside him, holding his sleeve, whispering, "They are here, human." "They never stop watching," the mother groaned, her foot still locked in the cruel trap, her body shaking, her breath shallow. Every sound she made seemed to echo too loud in the waiting dark. The human whispered to himself, "Think, think," his eyes darting between the trap, the mother, the trees, the eyes. He could not fight and free her at the same time, but he had to try. He bent down, pressing one hand on the trap again. Metal cold and wet with her blood. He pushed with all his strength, the hinges groaning, the red eyes flickered. As if amused, as if waiting, the human felt sweat on his neck. His muscles straining, he forced the blades wider, just enough to ease the pressure on her foot. She gasped in pain but clung to life. Behind him a branch snapped. Loud and sharp, not by accident, it was a signal. The human swung his rifle toward the sound, his eyes narrowing. He saw only shadows, but the eyes were gone, vanished like smoke. The jungle returned to silence, the glowing plants dimming further. Even the insects had stopped. The human's chest rose and fell, his breath louder than he wanted. He knew this was the hunter's game. Appear and vanish, make him waste energy, make him fear every sound. The child clung tighter. They are testing you, human. They want to see if you are weak. The human gave a quick nod. Then they will be disappointed, he said. Though inside he felt the sharp edge of doubt. He leaned close to the mother again. Her eyes half closed, whispering, "Leave me. Save my child." The human shook his head firmly. "Not an option," the child cried. "No, mother." "Don't say that." The forest rustled again. Slow and mocking, a laugh slithered between the trees. Cold, metallic, cruel. The human spun but saw nothing. Only shadows moving just beyond the edge of light. He cursed under his breath. They were circling. Waiting, he thought fast. Scanning the ground, the vines, the trees. Anything he could use, then he saw it. A broken branch thick as his arm. Sharp at one end, he grabbed it, jamming it between the jaws of the trap, prying with all his weight. The trap creaked. The metal screeched, then snapped open with a violent crack. The mother gasped, her body collapsing free, blood pouring from the wound. The child screamed with relief, hugging her. "Mother, you are free." The human ripped a strip of cloth from his uniform, binding her foot tight, fast, pressing down to slow the bleeding. No time to rest, no time to breathe. The forest moved again, this time closer. The human raised his rifle, aiming at the black wall of trees. "Come on then," he muttered. A shape flickered, then another. Tall form slipping between shadows, armor glinting faintly. Movements too fast, too smooth. The child whimpered, hiding behind him. "Hunters! They are hunters!" The human's heartbeat pounded in his ears. His training screamed to fire, but instinct told him not yet, not until he saw the whites of their eyes. If they even had whites, he adjusted his stance. Steady, calm outside, storm inside. The mother opened her eyes, her voice weak. "You cannot fight them all. They do not fear death. They only fear shame." The human caught her words. Strange but clear shame, that meant pride. That meant ego. Maybe that was a weapon. The jungle hissed, shapes darted closer. He raised his rifle, and then a single figure stepped out, tall, armored, mask glowing with two red slits for eyes. A long spear in its hand, it stood silent, watching, testing. The human met its gaze without flinching. "You think I am prey," he said, voice steady. "But you are wrong." The figure tilted its head, then tapped its spear on the ground, a signal. More shapes appeared behind it. Circling, slow and deliberate, their armor clicking, their breathing deep and heavy. The human planted his feet, the child clutching his leg. The mother weak but watching. The hunters closed in, step by step, their red eyes burning. The human raised his rifle higher, finger on the trigger, whispering to himself, "If this is the rising danger, then let it rise. I will meet it head on." And with that, the jungle itself seemed to exhale, as if even the trees were waiting for the first strike. The human stood in the clearing, rifle tight in his hands, eyes locked on the tall, armored figure. The alien hunters spread in a half circle, their glowing eyes burning like coals in the night. The child held onto his leg, trembling but refusing to let go. The mother lay weak but conscious, her breathing shallow, her eyes fixed on the enemy she clearly knew. The leader of the hunters stepped forward, tall and silent, armor black like stone, its mask carved with strange marks, red symbols glowing faintly across its chest. The human kept his stance firm, his finger ready on the trigger, every muscle tense. "You set the trap," he said into the dark, his voice strong. "You wanted her to suffer." The figure tilted its head, then lifted its spear, tapping the ground once. The sound echoed like thunder through the jungle. The child flinched, whispering, "It is them, the blood hunters, the cruel ones." The mother's voice cracked through the silence, weak but clear. "They are the ravagers," she whispered, her lips trembling. "Ancient enemies, killers of all." The human's eyes narrowed. Ravagers, he repeated, the name heavy on his tongue. The hunters stepped closer, their armor creaking, their bodies moving like shadows given form. The human noticed something strange. The same red symbols carved into the trees were also glowing faintly on the Ravager's armor. The same spirals, the same claw shapes. It was not just decoration, it was their mark, their claim. This jungle was not wild by accident. It was their hunting ground. The mother coughed, blood on her lips. They carved their mark wherever they kill. It is how they spread fear. They hunt not for food, not for war, but for sport. The human's jaw tightened, the cruelty of it made his stomach turn. Traps designed to bleed, victims left as warnings, whole forests marked like trophies. The leader raised its spear again, slowly pointing it toward the human, then toward the alien mother, then lowering it like a judge giving a sentence. The message was clear, she was the target. Her suffering the prize, the child screamed, "No! Leave her alone!" and stepped in front of his mother, small arms wide. The hunters laughed. A chorus of broken metallic voices, cruel and mocking. The sound filled the forest like knives. The human stepped forward, placing himself between the hunters and the child, his rifle aimed steady. "If you want her, you go through me," he growled. The Ravager leader paused, studying him as if confused, as if asking itself why a human would defend someone not of his kind. Then it lowered its mask slightly, revealing part of its face, pale skin stretched tight, sharp teeth glinting, eyes like molten metal. The human held his ground, though the sight chilled him. The mother whispered, "They will test you, human. They will not strike until they taste your fear. But if you show none, you shame them. And they hate shame more than death." The human's mind raced. Shame, that word again, it could be a weapon. He lowered his rifle just a little. Not in surrender, but in defiance, his voice calm. "I am not prey, and I will not run. You hide in the dark because you fear the light." The Ravagers hissed, some shifting angrily, their armor rattling. The leader's eyes flared brighter. The human stepped closer, fearless. "You build traps because you cannot face us head-on. You bleed mothers and children because you cannot win against warriors." The laugh died, replaced by low growls. The hunters tightened their grip on weapons. Their pride wounded, the leader growled loudest, slamming its spear into the ground, sparks flying. The human raised his rifle again, calm but ready. "You want blood? Come and take it." The child's eyes shone with shock. His small voice whispered, "You shame them, human." They are angry now. The Ravagers spread wider, encircling them, their eyes glowing hotter. But before the first strike came, the mother lifted her hand weakly, pointing deeper into the forest. "Look," she whispered. The human glanced where she pointed, and his breath caught more symbols carved into the trees, hundreds of them, glowing like fireflies stretching far into the jungle. It was not just one trap, not just one hunting ground. It was an entire territory of death. The truth hit him hard. This was not a random attack. This was a campaign, a system. They had been doing this for years, maybe centuries, carving fear into the bones of the land. The human's grip tightened on his rifle, his jaw set. This was not only about saving one mother and her child. This was about standing against something older, something vast. The hunters growled in unison, closing the circle, their red eyes burning. The human's chest rose, his voice steady. "Now I see your secret. You are not hunters, you are cowards dressed in armor." The Ravagers roared. Furious, the leader raised its spear high, ready to strike. The child screamed, the mother gasped, the human aimed, finger pressing the trigger, and in that instant, the jungle exploded with the sound of battle waiting to begin. The spear of the Ravager leader slammed into the earth. Sparks leapt into the air. The jungle shook as if the ground itself feared the strike. The circle of hunters closed tighter, their armor clicking like teeth, their red eyes glowing hotter, the sound of their growls rising like a storm. The human stood tall, rifle ready, the child behind him trembling, the mother lying weak but watching, her hand gripping the earth as if she could hold back death itself. The leader pointed its spear forward. The hunters moved as one, their steps silent, their blades shining in the dim light. The human's finger squeezed the trigger. The rifle roared. The shot lit the clearing in a flash. A hunter fell back with a guttural cry, its armor sparking where the bullet tore through. The others hissed, some retreating a step but more pushed forward. The human shifted his aim, firing again. Each shot echoing across the trees, branches snapped, leaves scattered. The smell of burning metal filled the air. The child screamed, "More! They are coming from behind." The human spun, firing at the shadows. Another hunter burst forward. Spear raised, he ducked, rolling to the side. The spear crashing into the ground where he had stood. He swung the rifle up, pulling the trigger. The blast tore through the hunter's chest. Sparks showered as the body collapsed with a heavy thud. The circle broke for a moment. Hunters snarled, some rushing forward in rage. The mother coughed, her weak voice straining. They want you to waste your fire, human, when your weapon is silent. They will take you. The human gritted his teeth. Counting his rounds, not many left, too many enemies. A hunter leapt from the trees, landing in front of him, blade swinging. The human dropped low, the blade cutting air above his head. He rammed his shoulder into the hunter's chest. Knocking it off balance, the child threw a stone. Striking another in the mask, it hissed, lunging at the boy. The human spun, firing again, the bullet catching it in the throat. It fell with a shriek. The hunters paused. Their circle tightening, their growls louder. They did not fear death, but they hated humiliation. Every loss burned their pride, the leader roared. The sound sharp and metallic. The hunters surged together, a wall of blades and spears. The human braced, no time to reload. He swung his rifle like a club. Striking one across the jaw, metal cracked, sparks flew. Another spear slashed toward him. He dodged, the blade grazing his arm, blood dripping. He grabbed the broken branch he had used to open the trap, thrusting it forward. The sharp end piercing through a hunter's shoulder. The creature shrieked, stumbling back. The child cried out, "Behind you!" The human twisted just in time. A blade aimed for his back. He blocked with the rifle. The metal rang like thunder. His arms shook with the force. The hunter pushed harder, teeth bared, but the human snarled, shoving it back. Then slamming the rifle butt into its mask, the glass cracked. The red glow flickered. The circle shifted again. The hunters regrouping, circling tighter. The human's chest heaved, sweat pouring down his face, his blood warm on his arm. But his stance did not break. The mother whispered, "They are testing you. They want to see if you break before they strike as one." The human spat blood from his lip. "Then I'll give them a surprise." He reached for a flare on his belt. Snapping it alive, red fire burst into the clearing. Smoke and light spilling out, the hunters hissed. Their glowing eyes flickering, some shielding their faces. The human raised the flare high, shouting, "You hide in shadows, but I burn in the light." He hurled the flare into the trees, the jungle lit red, shadows twisting, the hunters retreating slightly. The leader roared louder, furious, slamming its spear down again. The ground quaked, its pride wounded by the human's defiance. The human raised his rifle, the child clutching his leg, the mother staring with fading strength. But then the forest answered. New sounds joined the night. The breaking of branches, the stamping of heavy feet. The human's eyes narrowed. More hunters, dozens more, stepping from the trees, their eyes glowing like a sea of fire. The child gasped, "There are too many." The human's chest tightened, his ammo low, his body bleeding, but his spirit unbroken. He set his feet, voice steady. "Then let them all come." The ravagers roared in unison, their voices shaking the trees, and the ambush became a storm. The clearing shook with the roar of the ravagers. Dozens of glowing eyes blazing in the darkness, their armored bodies closing in from every side, their blades and spears glinting in the red flare light. The human stood tall in the center, his rifle heavy in his hands, his blood dripping onto the dirt, but his eyes steady, unbroken. The alien child clung to his leg, trembling but refusing to let go. The alien mother lay weak, her breath shallow, her hand reaching out as if to stop the storm. But powerless, the Ravager leader stepped forward, its spear lifted high, the red glow of its mask burning like fire. It pointed the weapon straight at the human. A silent command, surrender or die. The human raised his chin, his voice cutting the silence. "You want her? You want the child, you want me, then come and take us," the hunters hissed, circling closer, their laughter sharp and cruel. The human shifted his stance, shoulders squared, feet planted, his body trembling but his spirit rising. "I have faced worse than you," he said, his voice low but strong. "I have seen war, I have buried friends. I do not fear death." The child looked up at him, eyes wide with awe, whispering, "Human, you are not afraid?" The human gave a small nod, never looking away from the hunters. "Fear is not what makes us weak, giving up is, and I do not give up." The hunters snarled louder, their pride struck again. They had expected begging, screaming, terror, but instead they saw defiance. The leader slammed its spear into the ground, sparks flying, and then charged. the earth trembling under its heavy steps. The human roared back, stepping forward, his rifle raised, not just firing but charging too. His cry echoing through the jungle like thunder. The clash was violent, the leader's spear striking like lightning, the human blocking with his rifle, metal on metal, the sound ringing like a bell of war. The human twisted, driving his knee into the ravager's chest. The creature staggered but swung again. The spear slicing the air, he ducked low, rolling to the side, slamming the butt of his rifle against the creature's mask. The glass cracked. The red glow flickered. The hunters howled, some rushing in, but the human stood tall again, shouting, "One at a time or all together, it makes no difference." He fired, the shot hitting one in the shoulder. Sparks sprang, then swung the rifle like a club, striking another across the jaw. Blood dripped from his arm, his breath heavy, but his eyes burned with fire. The mother whispered weakly, "He fights for us. For a child not his own." The child's tears shone, his voice trembling. "He is human. But he is more than human." The ravagers circled tighter, furious, but none dared rush too close. Shame already burned in their pride. Their prey was not prey, their victim was not broken. The human pointed his rifle at them, his voice fierce. "You call yourselves hunters, but you bleed like anyone else. You hide in shadows, but I stand in the open. You think you are strong, but strength is not in cruelty. It is in courage." His words cut deep. The hunters hissed, shifting uneasily, their eyes burning hotter. The leader roared again, lunging forward. The human sidestepped, grabbing its spear with one hand, yanking it sideways. Their strength matched for a moment. Sparks flying as metal scraped, the human's teeth clenched, every muscle screaming. But he held on, twisting the spear out of its grip. Slamming the weapon into the dirt, the leader staggered back. Armor dented, mask cracked, the hunters gasped, their pride wounded deeper, their leader shamed before their eyes. The human lifted the stolen spear, planting it in the ground, his voice booming. "This is the strength of humans. We fight for each other. Not for sport, not for cruelty. We fight because we must. And we fight until the end." The jungle echoed with his cry. Even the glowing plants seemed to brighten, the silence of the animals breaking with distant calls, as if the whole forest heard his defiance. The ravagers hissed in fury, some stamping their feet, their armor rattling, their red eyes blazing. But they hesitated. They had seen courage. They had felt shame, the one thing they hated most. The mother whispered again, her voice breaking but proud. "This is why we trust humans. They never kneel when others demand it." The child clung tighter, whispering, "You are family now." The human raised his rifle again, his body shaking but his spirit unbroken, staring down the circle of enemies. The ravagers growled louder, the leader clutching its cracked mask, rage burning hotter than fire. It raised its hand, pointing at the human, its voice hissing like metal breaking. "This is not over." "Human," the circle of hunters shifted, some backing into the shadows, their glowing eyes fading, the leader retreating slowly, shame thick in the air. The human stood tall, bloodied but unbowed. Watching them vanish into the trees, the child whispered, "You made them run." The human shook his head slowly, eyes still in the dark. "No, they are not gone. They will return, stronger, angrier." The mother closed her eyes, whispering faintly, "Then the real war has just begun." The jungle fell silent again, but the silence was no comfort. It was a warning. The human tightened his grip on the rifle, his body trembling, his spirit burning brighter. This fight was not over, not even close. The clearing was quiet now, the hunters gone, but their shadows still clung to the trees. The jungle held its breath, waiting for what would come next. The human stood tall, his body trembling from wounds and exhaustion, but his eyes sharp, unbroken, his rifle heavy in his hands. The alien child clung to him, his small body shaking, yet his eyes wide with wonder. "You made them leave," he whispered, awe and relief in his voice. The human shook his head slowly, sweat dripping down his face.
"No, they are not gone, only waiting."
"They will return." The mother lay weak upon the ground, her skin pale, her breath ragged, yet her eyes shone with pride. She reached out her hand, touching the human's arm, her voice faint. "You stood when others would fall. You fought when no hope remained. This is why your kind is feared and loved." The human knelt, binding her wound tighter with strips from his uniform, his voice steady though his hands shook. "You are not safe yet, we must move." Before they regroup, the child nodded quickly, his small voice urgent. "Yes, we must leave this place. The jungle belongs to them. They will not forgive shame. The human lifted the mother carefully, carrying her across his shoulders, her weight heavy but his steps firm. The child walked beside him, looking back at every shadow. Every tree, the jungle seemed endless, the glowing plants swaying like silent watchers. Every sound louder than it should be. The snap of twigs, the rustle of leaves, the low whisper of wind. The human kept moving, his eyes scanning, his ears sharp, his mind ready for another attack. Hours passed like minutes, or minutes like hours, until at last they reached a ridge, the ground opening to a high view of the jungle below. The human set the mother down gently, her breathing easier now, though still weak. The child sat beside her, holding her hand. For a moment, there was peace, the stars above clear, the moonlight falling soft on their faces. The child looked up at the human, voice trembling but hopeful. "You saved us, you are not our blood, but you are our family now." The human gave a small nod, though his eyes remained on the dark jungle. Family means fighting for each other. No matter what, the mother smiled faintly, her eyes closing, whispering, "Your courage is our light." The silence was deep. But it did not last. From far below in the jungle came a sound, a horn deep and long, echoing through the trees. The call of the ravagers. The human's chest tightened, his jaw set. They were not finished. The shame had cut them too deep. Now they would return with fury. The child looked frightened, clutching his mother's hand. "They are calling more. So many more." The human raised his rifle again, his body weak but his spirit blazing. "Then let them come, we will face them again." But then, from the shadows of the ridge, another figure stepped forward. Not ravager, not human, something else. It wore long robes, its face hidden under a mask of bone, its hands glowing faintly with strange symbols. The child gasped, whispering, "A watcher." The human narrowed his eyes. "What are you?" The figure's voice was calm, deep, echoing like many voices at once. "I am the one who sees, human. I watched you shame the hunters. I watched you bleed and stand. I watched courage burn brighter than fear." The human kept his rifle raised, his voice steady. "And what do you want?" The watcher tilted its head, the glow of its hands brighter. "I want you to understand, human. This fight is not only for one mother, not only for one child, it is for all. The ravagers do not stop. They do not forget. They will hunt your kind, her kind, every kind, until nothing remains." The human's heart pounded, the weight of the words sinking heavy. The watcher pointed to the jungle below, its voice like thunder. This was only the first strike. The war has already begun. The human tightened his grip on the rifle, his voice calm but fierce. "Then we will fight, all of us. Together." The watcher gave a slow nod, its glowing hands fading, its form slipping back into the shadows. "Courage is your weapon, human, and courage is what they fear most." The figure vanished, leaving only the echo of its voice in the night. The child looked up, hope and fear mixing in his eyes. "Human, will you stay with us?" The human crouched, placing a hand on the boy's shoulder, his voice steady. "As long as there is breath in me, I will not leave you." The mother's eyes shone with tears, her voice soft. "Then perhaps there is hope. Even in the darkest war." The jungle below rumbled again with the horn of the ravagers, the sound of an army rising. The human stood tall against the night, battered, bloodied but unbroken, his rifle in hand, his courage burning like fire. And in the shadows, unseen, the ravager leader watched, its cracked mask glowing faint, its voice a whisper. The human will bleed again, but the next time, the world will bleed with him. The war was coming, and the night carried its promise.